All right, welcome back to Bash is Magic. No, it's not. An introduction to the command line for macOS and Linux. And here we are in part 11. This is my last planned part for this series, where I just share some tips and tricks, such as using the up arrow, autocomplete, and a lot more that were suggested by my friends on Twitter. All right, so back in February, when I originally was starting to put this talk together, I asked the internet, hey, what do you know about Bash? And what do you think people should know when they start out? Uh, Our friend Josh here says, make sure you tell them about autocomplete and using the up key. So here we are back at the terminal. I can go back through all of the commands that I have run recently simply by pushing the up arrow. So this is really handy when you're jumping between doing things like, let's edit hello.sh, and let's just take off that second out because I don't really need it here. And then we'll escape. Right, quit. And now I just want to run that. So /hello. Great, but now let's go edit it again. Well, as you can see, that was just really quick. I didn't have to retype it. I just typed up. And this is really handy if you're working on iterations. Up and down is all I'm pushing here on the keyboard. So up will take you to the last one. You can actually see all of the commands you've run recently if you run a history. History will actually just print out all of the commands that you've recently run. You can see, well, I've been making this video in sequence. If you want to run any of these commands, you could retype out that command or push up until you find it. Or in this case, I'm going to do that's cat looper. That's command 899. So what I do is bang and then 899. And there we go. We have run the command catlooper.sh because that was the same one I ran up here. If I want to run the exact command I just ran, especially if it was like a really long one to type out, I could say bang, bang, and it will simply repeat the last command and immediately the last command, what the second bang tells it. So I've just done it again. All right, so the next was autocomplete. So let's go to URLs here. You might have noticed if you watched the whole series that I wasn't typing all the time, all the letters. So if I'm going to change the directory to new, all I have to type, since I only have one thing in the folder that is with a capital letter N, I'll just type a capital letter N and then hit the tab key, and it fills in the rest of the word. So if I was just to type new with a lowercase n, there's only one thing. And this works insofar as you have only one thing. So I'm going to type hello.txt and create a little file called that. And now when I try to autocomplete with, let's just cat it out, hello, H, it will type up to the point where it's no longer the same. So autocomplete will give me the results of what it thinks I want, but it doesn't know which one I want, so it'll just stop. So let's say text is what I want to display. So T and then hit tab, and then we'll keep filling it in. It will try to fill in based on the best information it has available. You can actually add functionality to most command line tools to give it autocomplete as well. Just give it a library of things to fill in, and yeah, we'll more or less do that. This saves a lot of time, especially when you are typing long things, very specific names like example input. If I was going to cat that out, the only thing that starts with an E in the whole file is E, or is my example input. So E and then tab, and it just completes that thought. All right. The tab, pipe, and arrow keys, not necessarily in that order. We've already covered most of that with tab being autocomplete, piping the ability to take one command and put it, the output of that into another command, and arrow keys we already talked about. But Control Z is what I want to talk about. And actually, I want to talk about Control Z and Control C. So let's go ahead and get rid of this line, clear it out. Sometimes when you start running something, you've started to run the wrong thing, such as post-it. Oh no, I wanted to actually run post-it now. So how do I get out of this? Well, I'm going to hit the Control key and C, and that will kill the process. That will stop the process and get me out of it. But sometimes you start running a long running process. It's just going to take a while, such as you're downloading something or you're installing something. So if I brew install, let's do another Zelda game. So I'll just type Zelda. And it's going to start trying to update Homebrew. to figure this out, and I don't really want to wait around. I'd rather do something else. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and it doesn't kill the process. It just stops the window from caring about the process. I can still see what processes are around by typing PS. PS will tell me all of the things I have running inside of Bash across my machine. And you can see I got, currently a good number of things. So if I wanted to jump back to any of my processes, I just type BG, and it goes back to my background process that is still running. But I don't actually want to finish this. Well, it doesn't really matter because I'll just, oh, well, it actually is going to install one. So let's Control C, and let's just kill it. So now it's dead. Using Control C killed it. Control Z just let me pause it while I jump back to a terminal window, because sometimes you have long running things and you just want to pause it for a second, jump out, and do something else. Control E, Control A. These are really fun ones. Control K. I'm going to clear the screen real quick. So if I'm typing something very, very long, and I was like, oh, I forgot to put just that thing I wanted in the middle or in the front, I can hit Control and A, and it will jump to the beginning of the line. So now I can echo this, and it will make a little more sense to my machine what I actually want it to do. And then I could use the arrow keys to get all the way to the end, but I could hit Control E for Control End, and it will jump to the end of the line. Now, there is one more, Control A. If I hit Control A and go back to the beginning, I can also hit Control K, and it will cut the line. The line is now. Now, I think it's an interesting reason, like why this works this way, is because Richard Stallman, when he was rewriting Bash, he put the hotkeys that he used for Emacs. We're not going to get into Emacs today. We're not going to start that discussion. But this is exactly how it works over there. So if you know Bash, you know a little bit of Emacs, and if you know Emacs, then you know most of Bash. But we don't really need this. Let's hit Control K and just erase it. All right. Sarah says the asterisk character. I think I mentioned this earlier in an earlier video, but the asterisk character, the wild card, it is pretty amazing what it can do. So I don't really need my text files anymore. So I can go ahead and remove them. So I'm going to remove my text files, but instead of typing each one, all I'm going to say is asterisk.txt. And again, because I had that alias, it's going to actually ask me, do I want to remove these? And hello, yes, I do. And poem, no, I'll keep my poem. And no, I would like to keep Star Wars. So using rm minus I, which is what actually ran when I hit rm because my alias, it just went through everything with that dot text. Now, if I was to rm minus rf, everything with text, it wouldn't ask. It would just get rid of everything. This is actually really handy. I'm going to move over to my download folder. Oh, my download folder. And again, tab autocomplete to the rescue, so I didn't have to type all downloads. And if I do an LS here, you're going to see a lot of Unsplash videos, or Unsplash images, which is to be expected. But I don't really need these Unsplash images anymore. I already used them for what I was going to use them for. So I'm going to rm minus rf all of the .jpegs. And that, if I do an ls again, they're all gone. And now I just see what I have. All right. So I'm going to change directory back to where I was. And actually, I'm going to get to this in a second anyway. So CD minus acts as a last channel button. So if I'm currently in my training folder and I wanted to go back to where I just came from, which was my download folder, CD minus is the last channel. Also in Git, if you're jumping between branches, this works as well. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Multiplexing. This is an interesting one. If you are not doing remote sessions, you probably won't run into multiplexers, at least not at first, especially on Mac. Mac, since it just automatically logs you in as you in every Bash instance, it's pretty easy these days just to get multiple Bash windows up and running locally. But if you are remoting into servers, it's really handy to use a tool that can handle multiple sessions in the same screen. So he says he uses screen because it's already installed, and it is. So if you just type, we'll just look at the manual for screen. Screen, if you just type screen, it would just start a screen session. And A multiplexer will just let me have multiple terminal windows. This is really handy if I need to do multiple things. Again, your computer can do a lot of things at once. Modern computers can handle multitasking brilliantly, but accessing those multiple things going on can get really confusing if you're limiting yourself to one window. If you're going to remote into remote servers, absolutely use a multiplexer. If you are uh, working locally, you might use a multiplexer, you might not, depends on what you do. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you are looking to like advance your game, then yeah, start learning TMUX because that's pretty much everywhere, and Screen because again, it's pretty much already installed wherever you're at. Ooh, reverse command search. This is literally one of my favorite things in Bash. So I showed earlier a history, but if I'm doing a history, I have to go through all the commands that I've run to figure out what I wanted to do. Luckily, the system provides a way. If I just hit Control R, it will enter reverse search mode. So if there is a long string like a curl, oh, I can just run this command again from here and get my dad joke without having to type that whole string out again. Um, there's no autocomplete for just a random string I throw into curl. But since I typed it once, I can go ahead and find where I typed it again without having to push up a million times or literally look through my list of history. Man pages we've talked about. Explainshell.com, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful site. Go look at it on your own. I'm not going to actually go over there and look at it right now, but you go there. And if you are going to do anything in production, like actually take a bash script and put it into an environment where it gets automatically fired and it controls racks of servers for you and does things against remote installs of software, it's going to be really important to use something like unofficial bash strict mode. Um, this is setting up, if anything goes wrong, go ahead and completely fail. It can fail very loudly and tell me exactly why it failed. So we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of it since this is an intro on what every one of these set EU and O options means, what pipe fail means, or why we're setting the internal file separator. The more you dig into that, if you go read that article, it will explain it in detail, and I'll link that down in the description, as well as links to these slides. But if you're going to do this in production for real, absolutely, this is critical. Where I used to work, there was a rule that you couldn't put anything in production unless you used unofficial strict mode. And lastly, if you are the kind of person who would like to use the command line more, but you're just not really familiar and comfortable and confident typing all of your commands yet, and you're still getting used to that idea that you're going to use small text messages to communicate to a machine, well, fear not. There is a service out there in the internet that I think is great for everyone to learn. This is called Telehack, and you can get there just by going to telehack.com, and that's exactly what I took a screenshot of here. However, you can also use Telnet. So let's clear this out. So I'm just using the Telnet to actually go and connect to telehack.com. Now you might notice I don't have an HTTPS in front. That's because we're using the Telnet protocol. And the Telnet protocol doesn't need HTTP. In fact, that would actually throw it off. So let's go ahead and use Telnet to get to, well, this is exactly a remote service that we're connected to in Mountain View, California. And you can do a lot of things with this. The game 204, you can just hit the question mark to get back to this screen. Some of the cool things here is Star Wars. There is a full ASCII rendering of the movie Star Wars that you can simply watch by typing Star Wars, and it will show the full ASCII movie. To get out of this, just like we would in our local environment, we're gonna hit Control C, and it will take us back to the prompt. And hey, what can we do here? Let's ask question mark again. There's a lot of things to play with here. Weather, primes. Primes will just print primes. If you ever see my background, I typically just have prime numbers there, and that's how I get them. I simply print them out using prime inside of Telehack. Figlet is a really fun one. Figlet will just, hello. Figlet will print bubble letters inside of a terminal. So if you ever see a presentation, it's got really cool bubble letters. Figlet's got a lot of fonts too. Again, dig in, have fun. The best part of Telehack is it's impossible to mess anything up. You can get lost, you can type the wrong thing, sure, but the worst that's going to happen is you then type exit or simply close your terminal window and nothing bad has happened and it was all on someone else's machine. So that's it. Hopefully those tips will help you out in your day to day as you're learning this stuff. All right, thank you so much for watching, and please tell your friends.